In a move to undermine peace efforts in Yemen, Houthi militia holds military parade in Ab province. Yemeni journalists still face hacking, online harassment, and surveillance threat. Violence and discrimination plague Yemeni women in Houthi-controlled areas. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. I am Abir Ali and you are watching the English news. The Houthi militia held a massive military parade in Ab Governorate last Thursday. According to the government, the Houthi move is meant to undermine peace efforts and affirms again that the militia is turning its back in all regional and international efforts to achieve peace in the country. This report has more.
In a conspicuous show of power on the front lines of the crucial neighboring besieged city of Taiz, Yemen's Houthi-aligned armed forces organized a sizable military parade on Thursday in the city of Ib in the country's southeast. Images of the ceremony, which included hundreds of Houthi militants in uniform, were widely shared on social media. A video that was posted online also revealed that the fighters who marched had come from the city of Damar in the southwest to Ib on foot. Mahdi al-Mashat, the head of the Houthi Supreme Political Council, stated that specific weaponry that will be used in the next phase of battle against the enemy had been sent to the Iranian-backed organization. Muammar al-Eryani, the information minister of the Aden-based administration, condemned the procession on Twitter, calling it a public display of escalation and provocative behavior. The march, according to Eryani, was a poor and desperate show aimed at luring more fighters and children to recruit, and it highlighted their true stance toward calls for de-escalation and peace settlement. In September of last year, another military parade by Yemen's Houthi rebels in the key port city of Hodeidah drew local and international condemnation from the UN, which regards the show of force as a breach of the 2018 agreement to demilitarize the city. A 6-month UN-brokered truce ended in October of last year, but combat has virtually ceased as diplomatic attempts to resolve the war progress. Mohammed Al-Jaber, Riyadh's ambassador to Yemen, visited Sana'a in April as part of a bid to stabilize the truce. Despite the fact that no agreement was reached, Jaber later stated that the opposing sides are serious about ending the conflict. The Houthis, who are supported by Iran, took over Sana'a in 2014, triggering a Saudi-led military intervention months later. Hundreds of thousands of people have died as a result of the war, which has caused a massive humanitarian disaster.
The Houthi militia continues to implement a vast network of tunnels in the capital Sana'a. Local sources said the Houthi militia has expanded the operations of digging an integrated underground tunnel network that connects homes of senior leaders in Sana'a. Local sources reported that 7 tribal gunmen were killed in violent night clashes with security forces in Ma'rib. According to sources, the confrontations broke out following the killing of a tribal sheikh in Harif Junction, south of the city of Ma'rib. The Yemeni Network for Rights and Freedoms condemned the Houthis' exploitation of African immigrants in Sana'a. The network said in a statement that the Houthi group had recruited a number of African children in its summer centers, taking advantage of the dire humanitarian situation which they face. The network added that the recruitment of African children reveals the extent of the crimes committed by the Houthi militia against childhood amid silence of the United Nations. The Yemeni journalists continue to face a number of digital security challenges. Those challenges include hacking, online harassment, and surveillance threats. This report has more details.
9 years ago, press freedom witnessed its worst phase, and the Yemeni Journalist Syndicate has documented a number of cases. The conflict's intensification, which broke out in September 2014, has also led to a sharp increase in online attacks against journalists. According to a Yemeni expert in digital rights and safety, these attacks have been more common since April 14, 2022. Journalists are also subjected to hacking attempts through emails, which are frequently sent as advertising. Due to the ongoing war in Yemen, Yemeni journalists lack cybersecurity skills, making them vulnerable to cyber attacks. This risk is especially common among female journalists, who confront additional obstacles when reporting events involving the theft of their data, such as images, videos, and contact information. They frequently prefer to remain silent rather than seek help, because they're afraid of being blamed. This doubles the suffering of female journalists, as they are not only subjected to repercussions of cyber attacks, but they are also subjected to pressure from members of their communities who prefer to blame them rather than offer support. It's evident that journalists in Yemen's conflicted state lack legal protection. Many nations in the region fall short of the critical requirement of having specialized law that provides protection for journalists. Furthermore, the Yemeni press and publishing law currently does not address crimes involving the internet, networks, and electronic data. Every year, at least 5 journalists are killed in Yemen, according to the Euromed Human Rights Monitor. It claims that journalism has turned into one of the riskiest careers, particularly in areas of war, as it became an unsafe environment for journalists.
Since the Houthi coup in 2014, women have been subjected to violence and discrimination. An estimated 7.1 million women throughout Yemen require urgent access to services that prevent and address gender-based violence. Yet, these services are extremely limited or, in some places, completely absent. This report has more.
Since the Houthi militia stormed the capital Sana'a and seized state institutions in late 2014, the militia has committed dozens of crimes and violations against Yemeni women. After the militia took control of security services, Sana'a and other cities under the control of the Houthis witnessed an unprecedented wave of kidnappings of girls and students from the streets and markets, who were taken aboard Houthi cars and military vehicles to unknown destinations. Human rights reports revealed that the Houthi militia committed more than 1,893 cases of kidnappings, torture, and rape against women and girls from December 2017 to October 2022. The Women's Coalition for Peace in Yemen had confirmed that it had monitored more than 504 women in the central prison in Sana'a, 204 minor girls between the ages of 12 and 18, 283 cases of enforced disappearances in the group's secret prisons, and the issuance of 193 illegal sentences that varied between imprisonment and execution on charges of espionage, treason, and prostitution. Over the past 8 years, many local and international human rights reports reveal the horror of the human tragedy in the prisons of the Houthi group, stressing that women detained in militia prisons are subjected to physical torture, such as beatings with sticks, wires, electric shocks, and suffocation, in addition to psychological torture such as humiliation and verbal abuse. The horrific treatment of women by the Houthi militia, which includes harassment and repression, is not the only issue that has to be resolved. In addition to coercive laws that strip women of their rights, the deeper issue is the cultural indoctrination that is spread through the media and cultural policies that are implemented in schools and universities, trying to restrict women to a purely reproductive function. This is motivated by the jihadi ideology, which encourages women to stay at home rather than pursue careers as doctors, judges, or ambassadors.
Coming up in the news. Chibok government records increasing cases of measles amid collapse of health system. Welcome back. The Yemeni Ministry of Religious Endowment announced the completion of the process of sending Yemeni pilgrims to Mecca. The Minister of Endowments said that 24,255 pilgrims were transported in record time to perform the rituals of pilgrims. The Houthi militia placed barbed wire on the banks of the historic watercourse in the city of Sana'a. Local sources said the militia aims to prevent citizens from sitting on both sides of the watercourse, which is an open park for residents. Such a Houthi behavior comes along with other repressive acts which are meant to restrict public freedoms of the people in the areas under their control. The measles epidemic has hit major areas in Shabwa Governorate, recording thousands of cases among children in the city. Despite the health office repeated calls for parents to vaccinate their children against this epidemic, still there are children with no vaccination. The following report has more details.
Measles fever infections is expanding among the children of Shabwa Governorate, as the number of cases has risen to more than 730 cases, including 11 deaths from this deadly disease in a number of districts, according to official statistics, which raises fears and concerns that the Governorate will be exposed to an epidemic disaster that is difficult to control.
The cases have reached 730, including 11 death cases. 7 in Bayhan, 2 in Usaylan, 3 in Markha and 1 in Ataq. We call on parents to vaccinate their children as it is a deadly disease. All vaccinated cases did not have any complications.
According to officials, fevers are constantly rising in the Governorate. The spread of measles comes amid the scarce capabilities of the health authorities, which are unable to contain the epidemic. The vaccination center was able to treat a few children. However, some parents were skeptical about the vaccine's safety, and their children contracted measles as a result. That's when the parents realized the value of the vaccine. Specialists in the immunization centers complain about the reluctance of some parents to vaccinate their children during the implementation of the previous campaigns. Health authorities justify the spread of measles due to the neglect of some citizens in vaccinating their children as a result of raising awareness. However, activists and educators respond by blaming the health sector for the absence of the role of the education department in spreading and creating awareness among the people. Day after day, cases of measles epidemic are increasing in Shabwa Governorate, where fear and anxiety prevail among the population. It is difficult to control the governorate's exposure to an epidemic disaster, especially in the absence of the necessary and rapid procedures and measures to contain the deadly epidemic that began to spread 2 months ago.
In Sana'a, an official document revealed corruption cases within senior Houthi leaders and supervisors. According to the document, Houthi supervisors are involved in wasting millions of dollars while citizens are deprived basic life needs. This report has more.
An official document revealed a large number of corruption cases in various institutions in Sana'a, in which a large number of officials loyal to the Houthi militia were implicated in the embezzlement and waste of billions of rials. A report issued by the so-called Supreme National Commission for Combating Corruption, run by the Houthi militia for the first half of 2022, confirmed that officials in the Ministry of Water and Environment seized $24 million under fake contracts from grants provided by UNICEF. The report stated that the volume of damage in cases during the first half of 2022 exceeded 5.7 billion rials and $5 million. It stated that the number of corruption cases that could only be identified amounted to 55 cases, involving 211 people during the same period. But the actual number is much higher due to the high prevalence of corruption, bribery, financial and administrative imbalances. The report also stated that the tax authority in Sana'a made random payments from private accounts during the years 2020 and 2021, and that a number of real estate tax collectors embezzled more than 300 million rials.
The International Monetary Fund and the U.S. said peace and external financial support are two necessary conditions to mitigate Yemen's economic crisis. During a meeting between the U.S. Special Envoy to Yemen, Tim Lenderking, with the head of the International Monetary Fund mission in the Middle East, they discussed the progress made by the Yemeni government in the financial and economic reforms. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. In a move to undermine peace efforts in Yemen, Houthi militia holds military parade in Eb province. Yemeni journalists still face hacking, online harassment and surveillance threats. Violence and discrimination plague Yemeni women in Houthi-controlled areas. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali, and thank you for watching.